Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wicked Good Sports. I'm Brian Marr, and this episode I'm doing it solo, no guest interviews. Chad and Jack will be back, I imagine sooner than later. But since it's just me talking, it's already going to be about the NFL. I'm not really an expert on any of the other sports. That's why I rely on other people to come and talk to me about them. So, we're going to start off the show with huge news. Dak Prescott just signed a new deal to stay the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Then, speaking of deals, speaking of money, we're going to transition into the salary cap. Nobody really knows what it's going to be this year, and because of that, everyone's waiting with bated breath. It's going to be around probably $180 million, and if it is, people are going to get cut. And we've already seen some moves taking place, so I want to talk a little bit about that. And then to end the show, this is kind of like a personal thing. I don't think many people will be talking about it, or if they are, it's just going to be in passing. But is Ryan Fitzpatrick, the former Miami Dolphins quarterback, going to play somewhere else next year? There's a lot of conflicting opinions and reports going on out there, and I just want to play a little bit hypothetical. If he does, where could he go? And give my opinions on how he's doing. So the episode starts right now. So let's get right into it, and we're going to talk about Dak Prescott re-signing with the Dallas Cowboys. We all were wondering if this was going to happen, if they were going to franchise tag him again, because if they did, if they didn't, make a long-term deal after that, it was going to get insanely expensive. Granted, this contract is pretty expensive. He signed a deal for 4 years with a maximum value of $164 million, including $126 million in guaranteed. And it has a no-trade clause, a no-tag provision, and he is getting a $66 million signing bonus. So let's just take a second, let that marinate. Dak Prescott, at least for the next 4 years, is the future of the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm a bit surprised because, not that he resigned with the Cowboys, I think it's a good move for the Cowboys, but many people online do not think this was a good move at all. But I think before I started watching football, supposedly the Miami Dolphins had a consistently great quarterback under center. Unfortunately, by the time I began watching football in 2001, Dan Marino was gone, and they've struggled to replace him in the years since. Finding a good to great quarterback in this league is extremely difficult, and there's no guarantee that if they let Dak Prescott walk or tried to trade him to another team, that they would find someone of his caliber to replace him anytime soon. I know what a lot of you are thinking, like, how good is he really? Is it a product of the players around him? And while I can't necessarily make a call specifically on if he's a product of the players around him, I do think Dak Prescott is very good. Let's take a look at his last 2 years in stats. He has a combined record of 10 and 11, so not great, but in 2019, he threw for 4,902 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And then in 5 games this past season, 2020, Dak Prescott had a 68% completion percentage, threw for 1,856 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. So that's a pretty insane stat total to put up in that short of games. And obviously, he played in 5 games. He didn't finish that 5th game, pretty horrifically breaking his ankle. But I think Dak Prescott is a very talented quarterback and someone who's been a quarterback in the NFL for so long that he's matured into a decent decision maker. But I'm very interested to hear what everyone else thinks about Dak Prescott because, like I said, I was surprised to see people going so, I guess, anti-Dak online. And I guess it's not that surprising. This puts him as the second highest paid quarterback in terms of money per year. He's slated to make $42 million per year, at least over the first 3 years. And Like we said, he had a $66 million signing bonus. But I think he's worth it because that division, the NFC East, is just ripe for the picking. I mean, none of the teams played very well last season, especially the Cowboys with, Andy Dalton starting after Dak Prescott got hurt. So I think the Cowboys would be foolish to give up an opportunity to win the division, and then once you're in the playoffs, hey, anything can happen. I'd like to see them build out their defense a little bit more. Does this contract prevent that? That remains to be seen. But, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is a good move for the Dallas Cowboys, and I do think it's going to pay off well for them. So moving on from the Dallas Cowboys paying one player a lot of money, let's go to the NFL salary cap, where a lot of teams are going to have to make decisions about what kind of money they're going to be paying players. So the 2021 salary cap has not yet been announced, but reports from NFL.com, Kevin Patera, he wrote in an article, quote, "We know the salary cap won't be lower than $180 million, but how close it is to that floor will determine each team's flexibility in 2021. If the official figure isn't announced at some point Monday, expect the deadline to get pushed." He's, of course, referring to the deadline of teams to tag their players because, if they don't know how much the salary cap's going to be, it's going to make who they tag probably change based on how the franchise tag works and which positions make, more money or less money. So that's kind of where we stand right now. There is kind of whisperings that when it gets announced, we're going to see a deluge of news specifically regarding veteran players being released. And really, that's not that surprising. I mean, we've already seen it. Like, the Dolphins have released Kyle Van Noy, who had 69 tackles this year as well as 6 sacks. He wasn't super great in the passing game, but what he lacked in passing game prowess, he more than made up for in being a true leader for the Dolphins, a rare veteran on that team, someone who's won Super Bowls, been there, done that, who seemed to really love playing for the Dolphins. So his release was extremely surprising to me. Then you have the Vikings releasing Kyle Rudolph, which at face value is a really surprising decision. He's almost a face of the franchise there. A couple years ago, he made that catch in the playoffs to eliminate the New Orleans Saints. So it is surprising, but if you look a little closer, in recent years, his production has gone down quite a bit. Last year, he only put up a stat line of 28 receptions for 334 yards and 1 touchdown, and he only played in 12 games. So I do get why they wanted to move on from him. Michael Silver has reported that the Eagles will cut Zach Ertz if they can't find a trade partner for him. He's probably one of their best receiving options when healthy. The problem is he has not been healthy, much like Kyle Rudolph. He played 11 games last season, and he put up a stat line of 36 receptions for 335 yards and 1 touchdown. So I think we're kind of at a weird point where, we're teetering on the edge of a lot of big news when I'm recording this on Monday, March 8th. So what I'm going to do is kind of stick a pin in it. I just want to talk about this a little bit, kind of set up a future video where I'll have Chad on, and we'll kind of go through a lot of the players that have been released, because I do think that compared to many other years, we could be in for a huge, shocking number of cuts. And I mean, this really has to do with COVID cutting into the league's profits. I mean, most years they're able to make so much money that the salary cap goes up. They weren't able to have fans in person for most of the games, so it's really, not too surprising that the salary cap will, at the very least, remain the same and probably only go up a little bit. So let me know who you think is potentially in the position to get cut, perhaps a veteran on your favorite team who you enjoy but you could see being let go for the aforementioned reasons of the salary cap. So like I said at the top of the show, I don't think this is a topic that's going to be covered by a lot of people just because, he's not the most famous. He's one of the most lovable quarterbacks because of his beard, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, he doesn't necessarily bring in the clicks, but as someone who roots for the Miami Dolphins and who's grown quite fond of Ryan Fitzpatrick over the past couple of years, it's going to be sad to see him go. He almost certainly will not be back in Miami. He will certainly not be back in Miami next season. But I think he did a lot of good for the Dolphins. He played his heart out every game. It was sad to see him get benched for Tua last season because he really seemed to take it hard. On that same, notion, it was amazing to see his last game end in a dramatic throw and catch and victory against the Las Vegas Raiders. It was the first video I had on this channel talking about how crazy that was. So, in his short time, he's really made a big impact on the Dolphins and, beating the New England Patriots to knock them out of a bye week in the playoffs in 2019. What can you say? People just really love Ryan Fitzpatrick, and there are rumors that he wasn't going to play, but, there have been some rumors that came out today that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to come back at least for one more year, and it'll be interesting to see who he signs with. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of memeing in a way about him going to the Patriots because, hey, then he completes the AFC East gauntlet, or he would have played for every team in the AFC East. I do think it's possible if you decide to move on from Cam Newton that happens, but I think potentially more realistically, he's going to go to a team that, one, doesn't have a young quarterback who they really want to play anytime soon, because obviously he didn't enjoy that last year with the Miami Dolphins. So it's going to be a quarterback-needy team that doesn't have a young prospect waiting in the wings. And I know the Bears are trying to go after Russell Wilson, but if that doesn't work out, I could definitely see them signing him. It would definitely depend. I mean, there's certainly teams out there where he would fit well, but that's like my big brain call that he's going to be a member of the Chicago Bears. He's going to have a spot somewhere, and I just want to kind of say, thank you to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not that he'll ever see this video, but, he played really well. He helped the Dolphins change their culture and provided a lot of exciting moments. Last year, he played in 9 games, started 7 games, went 4-3 as a starter, had a 68.5 completion percentage, threw for 2,091 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. If you're a fan of a team that has signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, perhaps in the future you're coming back to this video, if you ask me what I think about him, I mean, he's an exciting player. He plays extremely hard. He's not afraid to, take off, run, and lower his head, which is kind of like a rare quality in a quarterback. At the same time, he can be frustrating because at any moment he could make a big play or a huge, costly interception. I do think the notion that he kind of elevated the Dolphins and got benched was unfair is kind of a misnomer. They were winning at the time when he got benched, but they were winning not necessarily because of him. Granted, not really in spite of him, but he wasn't adding enough value to counteract the value he was taking away through his interceptions. So, it was probably a disappointing thing for him. I don't think it was as crazy as a move as it might look like at the outside. So that's kind of the quarterback you're getting. He's getting up there in age, but he's a gunslinger. He's a lot of fun. He's very memeable, and I think he will make a great addition to whatever team he ends up going to. So that about does it for the podcast. An interesting one, a very obviously NFL heavy one. Like I said, we'll be having people to come on and talk about the NBA and maybe even the NHL moving forward. So until then, we'll see you in the next one. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you in the next one.